Okay, we're here with Guy Stevens, Chief Executive and Founder of Manta Trust. Hello Guy.
Hi.
How you doing?
Very good.
Good, fantastic. How's Dive 2014 been for you so far?
So far it's great. It's very busy. Had a good talk. Lots of people came. So yeah, very good so far.
What was your talk about this year?
So we've actually got two talks a day, but my talk was going to focus on all of the research that I've been doing for the last decade in the Maldives. So talking about what we found out, why the research is important, how that's helped shape conservation legislation in the country and also more globally as well.
Fantastic. What's the major focus at the moment this year for the Manta Trust? Where's the main body of work occurring?
Well, I mean, what we're doing is each of the projects really feeds into a global conservation strategy. So we're focusing not just on the mantas, but on their sort of smaller cousins, the mobular rays or devil rays, because they're equally as threatened through fisheries globally. So we're really trying to push to get better sort of international conservation legislation around these species. So a family sort of based conservation strategy, not just for the mantas themselves.
And whereabouts in the world are mantas facing their largest threat at the moment?
Well, if you'd asked me that question 6 months ago, I would have said Indonesia. But in fact, the Indonesian government announced earlier this year that manta rays are completely protected now in the country, so not allowed to fish them, not allowed to harm them in any way. So of course you still have to follow through with ensuring that legislation is effectively enforced, but we've really advanced the conservation achievements that are possible now in that part of the world. Other areas, Philippines, again, they're protected there, but they're not really well enforced, those legislation acts. Sri Lanka, also a sort of a hotspot of fisheries, where they go out right across the Indian Ocean to fish for them. But really, I guess, wherever you have these species occurring, they're threatened because they're so vulnerable to any form of exploitation.
Now, you mentioned Indonesia and how that situation is turning around. What would be your biggest success story in the last 12 months?
The last 12 months?
Or recently?
Yeah, well, I mean, I would say achieving CITES legislation for mantas was, it was a massive concerted effort by a lot of people. It's not just the Manta Trust, but we had our part to play, and we were certainly right there in the middle of the efforts to get them protected through CITES. So CITES ensuring that trade in these animals is restricted and only allowed to occur if it can be proven to be sustainable, which it's very hard to do. So effectively stopping the international trade between CITES nations of their gill plates, which was what's driving the fisheries for these animals globally. So that's a really big achievement, and that's what we're now trying to replicate with the mobulas, so the manta's smaller cousins, at the next CITES convention, which will be in 2016 in Cape Town. So that's a big achievement, and then national legislation for mantas in Indonesia, for mantas in the Maldives. Now they're protected in the Maldives as well, and a few other countries. We're starting to hope that more and more will introduce their own conservation measures.
Fantastic. And moving forward, what's next for the Manta Trust? What's happening on the horizon?
Next, I mean, I guess if you break down the charity into our main kind of areas of focus, we're obviously looking at the science, so pushing forward the research, trying to answer those key questions that can really have an impact from a conservation point of view. So how often do they reproduce? We're starting to realize that might be very, very infrequently. That means they're much more vulnerable to any fishing pressures. So answering some key science questions about their migration, about their longevity, reproduction are important, and we're working on those, and we hope that they will bear some really powerful, important scientific results soon. And from an education point of view, we're rolling out a lot more awareness campaigns through events like this at the Dive Show, through our online sources, through reaching out to the general public, through presentations. We've got the Manta book that comes out next year. It's the first book that's ever been produced on manta rays. It's going to be a beautiful book. I've written it myself, so hopefully it reads quite well as well. It's got Tom Peshak's images, so he's a National Geographic photographer, so myself and Tom have produced this book, and we hope that will also be a great way to raise the awareness and profile of the charity and for manta conservation.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for your time.
My pleasure.
Enjoy the rest of your Dive 2014.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.